on that story, we're joined by Jochen Kleinschmidt. He's an assistant professor of international relations at the EAFIT University in Medellin, Colombia. Professor, thanks so much for joining us. First, if you can, give us a better idea of how hard it was for the government to actually get to this point with the ELN. The group had never historically been amenable to talks.
Exactly. The ELN had always been the more uncompromising of the Colombian guerrilla groups. There had been attempts at talks already in the 70s, but the ELN then restructured and came back from military defeats essentially as an organized crime group based on kidnapping and especially based on extortion of multinational oil companies in the northeastern Santander province. Then at the beginning of the 2000s, the government of Álvaro Uribe tried again to involve the FARC in negotiations. That process again failed for various reasons, basically because the two sides could simply not come to trust each other. Now, how easy was it to get them involved? Basically, one could say the ELN are essentially forced to negotiate, because with the advances, slow advances, but advances of the peace process with a larger insurgent force, the FARC, with the demobilization of their forces, the entire weight of the military and security apparatus of Colombia would fall on the ELN and would probably annihilate them. So one could say they basically have no choice simply in order to survive, and this is perhaps their last best chance.
Okay, so how close is Colombia now to finally ending this civil war?
That is a very difficult and very good question. Basically, ever since the mid-2000s, since the massive campaign of the renovated Colombian military against guerrilla groups after the demobilization of the paramilitary AUC, only a very small part of the violence that we see in Colombia has been strictly political in that sense. Obviously, it depends on how you define political and what you define as criminal violence. Very often the two overlap. But today we can say only very few percent of the violent deaths in Colombia are caused by insurgent groups. And in that way, the violence of the political conflict has already ended. The question now is how to reintegrate the militants of those groups into civil society and how to achieve a political settlement that is lasting and that doesn't lead to the members of those groups simply joining other criminal groups or remaining with their arms in different ways.
Okay. Jochen Kleinschmidt, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for that from Medellin.